Welcome to the Kelly Healing Project, where we have real conversations about healing, growth, and stepping into your power. I'm Kelly, and I'm so glad you're here. So today's episode is going to be on how what you focus on feels real. So one thing that I've talked about before is that your attention is so incredibly powerful. What you put your focus and attention on will feel real, even if it's not true, if that makes sense. So focus equals feeling. So what you put your mind and attention on will feel real, even if it's not real. So I've had circumstances in my life where I didn't realize that I had internalized a critical voice growing up. So, growing up in the household that I did, it just felt like I could never do anything right. I was pretty much blamed for a lot of things. And when you grow up in an abusive household, you apologize a lot because you learn just to take responsibility for it, because you're really going to get blamed for it. It doesn't even matter if it's your responsibility, if it was your fault that it happened, you're going to get blamed for it anyways. So you might as well just go ahead and take responsibility and take the blame for it, even if you've had nothing to do with it. But anyways, the joys of living in a toxic household of people who can't regulate their emotions and just put the blame on everybody else and then just wonder why their life sucks because they never take accountability and responsibility and take their power back. But that's okay. It's not your job to show everyone the way. You can tell people that there's a different way, but some people are not always ready and willing to accept that and to look within. That may be scary for some people, and especially narcissists. They just want to project a lot of things outward because they're so terrified of looking inward, because they're afraid of what they will see, because they don't love themselves, and they're so deeply afraid of going from within because, oh my gosh, what if I actually see that what I feel, the hatred that I have for myself, it's actually true. Like everything that I feel is true, which it's not, but they just, no accountability, no responsibility for their life kind of thing. But anyways, besides the point. But, so whatever you focus on, your mind really begins searching for more of it. So if you constantly focus on what could go wrong, you'll start to see danger everywhere. And if you focus on your mistakes, they'll begin to feel like they define you. But sometimes what we're focusing on isn't the real problem. And this is what I learned. And I don't know, this year has truly been such a big year. I mean, I feel like almost every year has been a big year. There are times where, in my own healing journey, I never fully stopped. I mean, I feel like I've been healing for, over 20 years. And it's been something that you consistently work at. And sometimes it feels like you're not making progress when you actually are. But it just doesn't feel that way. And what I realized, especially this year, it became, maybe it was last year, I'm not sure, but it's fairly recently, is that I had, that critical voice in my head wasn't mine. It was it was my mother's voice that I internalized. I made it my own. And your parents are the first teachers of your own self-worth, of how you deserve to be treated. And if, they talk down on you and constantly blame you for things and make you feel like you're hard to love, well, then that's what you're going to assume is true. You're going to think that you're the problem when that is not true at all whatsoever. So I had internalized that voice. And for so long, I was so critical of myself. And I would pick things and just, I would feel like, oh, this is the problem. Like, oh, there's, look at this. This is not good enough. This is not, blah, blah, blah. Like, I would nitpick at myself when I looked in the mirror or whatever. And it wasn't me. Like, that voice wasn't me. I didn't need my mother anymore because I became her. And when I realized that, and I was like, no, this is not how my life is supposed to be. And I've learned to give myself the love that I deserve to fill up my cup. And I feel like I've been working on this inner critic for a while, but I just recently, in the past year, 2 years, had the realization that it was just my mother's voice. It wasn't mine. Like, it just became more apparent. And two, when you heal, you may not really truly understand. You know that, hey, I don't like this. There needs to be some changes. And you'll start working on it. And then the more you work on it, it's like clarity will come, and then you'll start to see things so clearly. That makes so much sense. And that's just one thing that I experienced. But so there were times when I would think in my head that things were a problem. You're not this, you're not enough of this, blah, blah, blah. But deep down, it was that critical voice that I had internalized that made up this belief system that I wasn't enough, that I wasn't good enough, blah, 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 that I wasn't worthy of love. So I would find things and I would, oh, that's a problem. Oh my God. Every time I look, this is not enough. This is not good enough, blah, blah, whatever it was. So really, in my head, I would think that whatever I was picking at, that was the problem. When it wasn't the problem. The problem was the underlying belief systems. And that's one thing that people don't realize. And a lot of people, they don't see through the patterns, and they don't understand that a lot of this stuff is not, like, that's not the problem. It's the underlying belief system that you need to work on. And this is one thing that I feel like a lot of people who constantly, listen, there's nothing wrong with improving yourself. I think it's wonderful to have goals and to have a destination of, hey, I want to get better. But there's a fine line between constantly trying to get improvements that are not natural because you don't love and accept yourself. Because you're trying to hit this unimaginable thing where you think that if I look a certain way that these people will love and accept me, or maybe you will love and accept yourself. And I've seen those people time and time again. They like get plastic surgery after plastic surgery, and it's like never enough. And then you see them, and then they look disfigured after so long because, your body can only take so much. I've seen a guy who had so many nose surgeries that his nose caved in. And, and it's one of those things that you don't need to strive to be perfect because nobody's going to be perfect. You need to learn to love yourself how you truly are and just love and unconditionally accept yourself. But if you keep, like I said, there's nothing wrong with improving. But if but that kind of, getting plastic surgery to the point of disfiguration and, it's not you're trying to improve yourself. You've got in your head that if I don't look a certain way, then I won't love myself or people won't love me. But really what you don't realize that what that thing is that you're picking on is not the problem. It's the underlying belief system. You are trying to fill some sort of need or belief system that is on it's on an unconscious level. So you're not fully aware of it. but it's operating in the background. And these unconscious beliefs everyone has like subconscious, unconscious beliefs that you're not aware that you formed even when you were little. Even when you were an adult, everyone has these. Some are good, some not so good, and some are excessive and some are extreme. And just because you have a belief doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. I formed several beliefs growing up that I know that are not true. And, I have worked on a lot of them and really just sat with myself and just journaled and like, okay, what is this, what does this mean? Like, what do I feel? Like, what would I have to believe is true to be reacting in this way? And, I've worked on, God, pretty much a lot of it. There's still a little bit there that I'm still working on. I feel like almost healing, I don't even think you're ever fully, completely done. But let me tell you, I'm a lot further than some people, and because I have put the work in. Like, I have been a hermit doing this work. And while other people were out probably partying, drinking, whatever, I've been at home working on this. Especially, it's like the more that I can't stop working. I can't stop doing this. I am so close to finally healing all of this stuff, because this has been, and I'm so passionate about it, because if you lived a day in my shoes, even where I was 15, 20 years ago, you would see how important this is and how this has been like how I just have, I have this passion and this drive that nobody's going to stop me, because I know I'm going to heal from this. And I know that life can be so much more beautiful than what I've experienced. And I know that I am worthy of such a beautiful, divine, amazing, incredible love. And how you have to give it to yourself first. And how, as within, so without, what you see on the outside is it's a reflection of the inside. Your external world is a reflection of your internal world. So if you want to change your external reality, you have to change your internal reality, which includes your belief systems, which includes the way you react to things, which includes what you focus on. Like, it's all related. And it's just so very important. And and I just want everyone to question, if you have something that you think is the problem, I want you to really sit down and journal it. And just sit down and journal your thoughts. Just journal what is going on in your head when these thoughts come up. Are they fully true? Because what you focus on will feel true in your world, in your head. It will feel true. And our brains are, let me first tell you, they are incredible. But your brain, a lot of times, doesn't know what is actual reality and what is not. So you can make some belief system up that is not actual reality, and your brain, because you believe it, your brain will find evidence to support that. It's called the reticular activating system. If we took in every single, even when you're driving, like say you're driving to work, if you took in every single car that you encountered on your drive, it would be overwhelming. You wouldn't have enough brain space for the other things you were going to do when you actually got to work. So your brain only focuses on what you tell it as important. And what you focus on, your brain will find evidence to support it, even if it's not real. So if you are nitpicking or you are focusing so heavily on something, really look at it, really question it. Because could it be reality? Well, heck, it could. Yes, it could very well be reality. But it could also be some unconscious beliefs that you're not aware of that are playing out in your life until you actually decide to make a change and to really get better. So, for years, like I said, I thought certain situations or other people were causing my struggles. But as I continued to heal, I realized that those situations were often shining a light on something much deeper. Old beliefs that I internalized and the critical voice I carried for so many years. So the circumstances weren't always the source of my pain. They were revealing wounds that were asking to be healed. So that's why healing isn't only about changing what's happening around you, but it's also about becoming aware of the stories that you're telling yourself and asking whether they're actually true. So you don't have to believe every thought you think. And that's where most people get it wrong. They think that just because they have a thought that somehow it's fact, but not every thought that comes up is fact. Sometimes it is your old belief system, it's old trauma playing out. It's what your nervous system experienced in the past. And your nervous system and your body, they're trying to keep you alive. And if you've experienced trauma in the past, then it's going to think that things like that or related to that, oh no, those are not safe. We need to avoid those. It's trying to keep you alive. And, and that's amazing, but sometimes we need to challenge it. So when you begin challenging old beliefs and intentionally focusing on what supports your growth, your perspective starts to shift. And with it, your life. So you need to keep going and you need to be patient with yourself. Healing happens one thought, one choice, and one day at a time. So always remember that where your attention goes, your experience often follows. So choose your focus wisely. It is so incredibly important. And it's something that has, changed my life. My life has changed for the better. And it's not to say that, stuff like that never happens, Even with healing, you will think that you have, you've worked on everything. Wow, I think I've worked through that. And then it'll come up later. It could be a month later. Heck, it could be a year later. And you'd be like, I thought I already healed this. Well, sometimes it's coming up because there's a little bit there's maybe something else that you really need to heal and you need to sit with it. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's always bad or you're doing something wrong. Sometimes some things like that, it just happens. Like even yesterday, I don't know. Yesterday I felt like I was in a funk and I'm not sure why. But it's okay. Everybody has bad days. But let me tell you, the more healing that I've done, the less bad days that I have. It used to be, it wasn't every day, but it was very hard when you've lived with complex PTSD and you're even, at work, and you're really getting triggered even when you don't realize it. There could be somebody's conversation that you're not realizing you're hearing, and it could trigger you. And for me, God, I got triggered so much. And I wish if you spent a day in my shoes, like I said, 15 years ago, you would understand why I'm so passionate about this, because I felt like this has been such a huge part of my life. And it's not that it defines me, but it's just because I didn't like feeling that way. And it was one of those things when you're a kid, you don't know any better. You don't understand that the person that you're supposed to trust is not treating you fairly and is not treating you right and is not giving you the full love and let me say, unconditional love that you deserved, because the love that I experienced was conditional, and if you didn't perform a certain way, then it would be taken away, and or they would just cut off communication, that abandonment wound, but whatever. But true love is unconditional. It doesn't have to earn it doesn't have to earn its way. It doesn't have to earn true love. True love is unconditional, and that's how it should be. But when you grow up in that household, you don't know any better with complex PTSD. Oh my God, most of my, the first 35 years of my life, I have just been surviving. And, I was just had a hard time. And when you even experience a significant other that doesn't truly give you the safe environment to heal, that doesn't help either. So, yeah, for the first probably, 30 something years of my life, it's been a struggle, and that's why I'm so passionate about it, because ultimately I'm in a place now where I'm confident. I love myself. I have learned to heal that. I have learned to regulate my nervous system. I'm so much calmer now. I don't take any medication for anxiety, depression, CPSD or PTSD, any of that crap. And I feel, overall, I feel great. I enjoy being in my company. I am so, confident, even being with myself. I thoroughly enjoy my company. I have rediscovered my joy, and I'll be honest, I've always been a very joyful person, even as a kid early on. But there was a period for a while there where I felt like my light kind of dimmed a little bit. And I also learned to dim my light for other people so I didn't shine too brightly, so you don't piss anybody off. But I'm fucking done doing that shit. I'm going to shine whether you like me or not, and I'm going to be okay taking up space for so long of, trying not to say anything to piss anybody off, being afraid to speak up, not being able to speak up. This has been a huge, part in my life because of all the pain that I've experienced. But from that, I found my purpose, and I found my calling is to speak on this and to show other people that it's possible. And just because you have CPSD doesn't mean you can't fucking heal from it. And I even spoke to a doctor. I don't remember who it was, but a doctor or a counselor or somebody, and talking about how it's so hard to heal from that. It's almost impossible. No, it's not. Does it take time? Hell yeah, it does. It doesn't take, it's not like you can heal it in a few years. No, it takes decades. It takes decades to heal this. But if you're consistent, just with anything, if you're consistent, you can heal it. Nothing is impossible. And so that's what I want to do. I want to shed a light on this and to tell other people that healing is possible. And just because somebody tells you that, oh, you have complex PTSD, you're going to think it's a life sentence of just having nightmares every night. I used to have nightmares every night. I can't remember the last time I had a nightmare. I don't know, 6 years ago, 7 years. I don't know how many years ago it's been. So long ago, I can't even remember, and then having flashbacks or, yeah, it's crazy. That used to be me, but that's not me anymore because I rewrote my story, and you can too. You don't have to be a slave to this. You can rise above and you can overcome this. But if you're going to heal, you're going to need to stay positive, stay focused. I know it's so easy to go to the negative, but listen, you get what you think about. The universe gives you more of what you are and what state you're at. So you can't focus on the negative because you only attract more things. You need to focus on positive things. You need to stay positive. You need to stay grounded. You need to try to stay calm and regulate your nervous system. You need to keep going. You need to have patience. Beating yourself up is not gonna make anything better. If anything, it's gonna make it worse. And you just need to know that it can add up over time. So keep going and don't stop. And just remember how incredibly important your attention and focus is, because what you focus on will feel real. So focus on the good stuff. Focus on how you are a badass and how you are going to overcome any obstacle that comes in your way. And that includes complex PTSD, because you can overcome it, and you will. I promise you, you can overcome anything. With the right attitude and the right discipline and the right work, you can accomplish anything. So thank you so much for listening to the Kelly Healing Project. Remember that healing is not about becoming someone new. It's about reconnecting with who you truly are, healing the past, empowering your future. If you'd like to connect further with me, you can visit me at thekellyhealingproject.com. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening.